Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Shadow Warrior 2. I played it on the PS4, it's also available on the Xbox One and PC. I know it came out way earlier this year, but I kind of like this time of year the lulls in the major releases because it allows me to go back and play games that I didn't play when they came out. So once again, in Shadow Warrior, you play as Lo Wang. Yeah, it's a joke. And this guy is full of a bunch of corny 80s action movie puns, and I still love that about this game. This game plays off events from the previous game, and well, the demon world and human world have collided. It's called the collision. So there are demons pretty much everywhere, but there are still your standard humans running around as well. You are tasked with a job to rescue Kamiko, and well, turns out she gets drugged by Zilla. If you don't recall, Zilla was from the last game, and what she's drugged with is like this horrendous thing, and it's gonna do like mess up things to her body. So they take her soul and put it into Lo Wang's body. So he's got her soul and his, and it leads to kind of a buddy cop interaction, and it's pretty funny. I actually really enjoyed it. I liked their interactions, and it's neat to see the two of them grow as a pair throughout the game. Now, obviously, it isn't as simple as that, and if it was, that'd be a pretty damn boring game. But overall, I did enjoy the story for the most part. I will say there were things that I didn't like because you'd have a cutscene and it would end in a weird way, or the conversation wouldn't go the way you'd expect it to, and then you jump into a new conversation about the events of that last cutscene, and they just would not add up. So as much as I enjoyed the core story of the game, there were things like that going on where I was just bewildered, and I don't know, it felt disjointed, and I did not like that part of it. As for the audio is good for the sound effects and whatnot. There's not a ton of music, or if there is, it generally gets drowned out. It is fun having some of their like interesting, not quite power metal, but like 80s hair metal sounding songs here and there, and that's fun. As for the voiceover work, I would say Lo Wang and Kamiko do the best job. Everybody else is passable for an 80s style movie, so not quite like Oscar worthy by any stretch. The drama isn't really there. Not that it necessarily needs to be, because this isn't a super serious game. As for like the gameplay mechanics, it is very much first-person shooter. It is very fast-paced action, honestly. There are different ways you can swing your sword, but the reality of it is it doesn't matter that much at the end of the day. You'll find yourself doing a lot of strafing and slashing, so having more advanced mechanics for the sword is kind of wasted on this game. Also, I will say this is not so much due to the controls, it is due to the movement of your enemies. Any weapon apart from the shotgun is pretty much useless against smaller enemies because of the rate they move at. Just makes them very unneededly difficult targets. One thing I did love in this game was you get to carry a large variety of weapons, and then there is just an insane variety of weapons outside of that you can swap in and out for. Handgun, shotgun, assault rifle, like LMGs, rocket launchers, grenade launchers, different types of melee weapons. I really loved that. I love always having that option. If I just don't feel like using this one weapon, I can easily switch to something else. You can tell it's meant to be a very fast-paced game because Lo Wang at all times moves at a pretty quick pace. You have infinite like dodge, and you have double jump, so it's clearly made to make you as mobile as possible. Unfortunately, I feel like that's all kind of dragged down because unlike the first game, it's not a linear game. Shadow Warrior 2 is a very, not open world, but it does the whole hub area thing, and then you go to different areas for different missions and side missions. And while I can see that they were clearly trying to expand the world because they didn't have as much of a main story, the first game was linear, it was stupid action, it was ridiculous, it was very much inspired by 80s action movies. This one has a lot of that same inspiration, but it feels bogged down by all the extra stuff they tried to add. As for the controls are honestly excellent in this game. They're a little tough to get used to at first because everything is so very, very fast-paced. It's one of those shooters that's more of a throwback to the old school where it's just meant to be going hardcore, fast, firing, just slaughtering the enemies. The controls are very responsive. I never really ran into any problems where I couldn't do what I wanted to do. The controls did what I wanted when I wanted, and that is always important. Lastly, the graphics. Unfortunately, I feel like that's where this game falls short. I think that was true of the first game as well. The graphics aren't amazing. Not that they're absolutely horrible. They're not the best I've ever seen. They're actually very far from the best I've ever seen, but they're still good enough, and with how fast you're going, and if you're having a good time with it, you kind of lose track of that. Except for there was one part, it was a boss fight. For whatever reason, in this boss fight, which was in a closed area, it was just me and the boss. Man, I lost all the frames of my frame rate. I was well below 30 frames, and there was graphic tearing going on. It got pretty ugly. Why that was happening, I don't know. Can't really wrap my mind around, and it's really annoying, but it's not ruinous to the game. So to wrap things up, honestly, I enjoyed the game. It's not a full price game, and that's good because if it was a full $60 game, I couldn't recommend it, but where it stands, if you enjoy just kind of a goofier first-person shooter, this is a good one. If you played the first game and liked it, you're gonna get more of what you liked in this game. Admittedly, there are some things that I didn't necessarily enjoy, but the overall experience, I did enjoy. Okay, so in the comments below, why don't you tell me if you played the first Shadow Warrior? Not like the original one, but the one that came out not too long ago. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, share, subscribe. Have a good one.